My name is Marcus Hanscom. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission here at Roger Williams, working remotely as we all are right now. And I'm joined by Dr. Sean Verano, who's our Program Director, and he'll talk to you a little bit more about the program in just a second. And we appreciate your time. Hopefully you're staying safe with you and your families and you're working from home or whatever you're doing these days. But we appreciate you taking the time to join us, especially as we've had to kind of adapt to doing these things virtually. So hopefully this is helpful for you. And as you have questions, let us know, and then we're happy to be resources for you whenever you need it going forward. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass over to Dr. Verano to tell you a little bit more about the program.
Well, thank you so much, Marcus. And we do have Dean Ambert online here too, it appears. So if there's any questions at the administration level, certainly please feel free to ask. So first of all, welcome to the open house for Roger Williams. It's a great opportunity to engage with everybody here. Obviously, we wish we were in person, but we're doing the best that we can do. The master's program in criminal justice at Roger Williams is the oldest program at Roger Williams. And it is part of the School of Justice Studies. So administratively, the Masters of Criminal Justice is in the School of Justice Studies and is co-located with the Masters in Public Administration, the Masters of Cybersecurity, and the Masters in Leadership. Along with our undergraduate criminal justice program and the Masters, we also have the Justice Training and Research Institute, which is the home for the New England Chiefs of Police, where there's a lot of training that happens really across the region. And Dean Dave Lambert is the director of that, and he is actually on with us today. The master's program is 36 credit hours, which is pretty typical of most master's programs, and we offer, I think you'll find, a lot of flexibility that will really work with most academic and professional schedules. Marcus, I'm not sure. Yeah, there we go. So again, why earn a master's degree in criminal justice? Certainly, I think it's safe to say that graduate degrees really are a requirement for most professions today. For certain federal jobs, as an example, you will actually get more points at the application process. Certainly, for those people that are currently working, it provides opportunities for career growth, some management experience. Again, one of the advantages of having the Masters of Criminal Justice co-located with the leadership programs and the Masters of Public Administration, again, for those people that are currently in leadership positions, we really can diversify your offerings by offering some elective courses in those areas. And certainly from a long-term earnings point of view, graduate degrees at this point certainly offer more earning potential over one's professional life course. And certainly for those people that want to, either are mid-career or right out of college, really those earnings can be leveraged in different ways. In terms of those that are entering, it certainly offers from the entry level increased opportunities, even for those that maybe don't have an undergraduate degree in criminal justice. Criminal justice really is one of those interdisciplinary degrees. So while many of our students at the graduate level will come to us from criminal justice undergraduate degrees, we really offer sort of a wide opportunity for even non-criminal justice majors to gain that criminal justice experience at the graduate level. So our program is 36 credit hours. So all of our courses are three credits. So it's 12 courses. We offer, again, a lot of flexibility in our program. We offer our courses either completely online or hybrid. With the hybrid, what that means is that there's a week online, a week in class. And that hybrid model we're really finding in the last 3 to 4 years has become a really attractive option for both our traditional students and our working professionals. It really creates that perfect balance of flexibility that people want, but also that one-on-one engagement where appropriate. But again, if you're a student that has an interest in online, the program will also fit your needs. One of the nice things too about the hybrid and online is students certain times start a graduate program without actually knowing how their obligations will change. So if you start as a hybrid student, but then maybe you get a job or you're working right now and your assignment changes and you need to switch to online, we certainly have that flexibility to accommodate. The program is really built for online and part-time students. So really depending upon where you are in your education, the program will fit both of those needs. And again, kind of connected to the previous point, it will allow students to float back and forth. I just had a graduate student who is a police officer in one of the adjoining communities, and she's been in the program for 3 or 4 semesters at this point, and she's like, you know what, I just want to finish the program. So she's going to ramp up the number of courses that she takes. So that idea of being able to speed up or slow down the program depending upon what life sort of presents to you is a really needed amount of flexibility at the graduate level. We do have a thesis track versus non-thesis track option. Probably about 90% of our students do the non-thesis track option. And really, if you are debating about whether you want to do a thesis track option or non-thesis track, you can really talk to me, not only at the point of application, but also when you start the program, to really find out which option is really best for you. What I often advise students is that if you are at all seriously considering doing a PhD program, then you really want to do the thesis option. If you're 100% sure you don't want to do a PhD program, well, then the non-thesis option is definitely more doable for you. And if you're somewhere in between, then we can have that conversation. Our cost of the program is very competitive. You'll find that it's $984 a credit, and that is, again, for the 2021 academic year. And just like, all of our programs, it is eligible for financial aid. And so again, it is included as a possibility or as a approved program for federal student loans. You'll see, so we have in our program, so as you saw just a minute ago, there's 12 courses or 36 credit hours. That is the program as a whole. Of that, of those credits, half of those credits, or 6 of those courses are required classes. 6 of those courses are elective courses. And what you'll see here in both our required classes and our elective courses is that we really want students to have a strong foundation in research, theory, and practice. Really, criminal justice at the academic level really is the intersection of how we use theory and research to inform public policy. And so our program gives students a strong grounding in all of those areas. We also have the ability for students to carve out somewhat of a legal expertise if you want to get through elective courses and our required classes a little bit more legal experience. And we also will offer students the option of taking elective courses. And again, this is all based on approval or pre-approval in cybersecurity, leadership, and public administration. And we've been working more recently with the forensic psych program and doing a lot more collaboration with them. But in terms of the required classes, we have criminal justice overview, which is, I often describe that as intro to criminal justice, but at the graduate level. So instead of just going a couple of inches deep, it goes much deeper on on many critical issues connected to criminal justice. We have survey research methods. Again, at almost any level of education in criminal justice, you'll find that there's required classes around both statistics and research methods, legal issues, crime and public policy, and then criminological theory. And then if you were going to take the thesis option, instead of taking 6 elective courses, you would only take 4 elective courses, and the remaining of those credit hours would be what we call thesis credit hours. And that is where you would work under the supervision of your thesis faculty and your thesis committee to develop an original piece of research that will hopefully put you in a position to publish that work or present it at national or regional conferences.
And Sean, I just wanted to add for everybody that if you want, many of these areas have certificates available. So we do allow double dipping, for lack of a better term. So if you're interested in getting, for example, a cybersecurity certificate, which is actually only 9 credits, you could take 2 or maybe 3 at instructor's approval to earn the certificate as part of the CJ program. So you're not taking any additional courses, so no additional money, and you're getting 2 credentials. You could also be taking a few classes toward a certificate in public administration, or public management rather, or healthcare administration, or even leadership. And those are all 5-course certificates, and you could take 2 or 3 of them within the CJ program, and then you're only taking a couple additional courses to complete those certificates. So you give some flexibility on getting some additional credentials while you're here to make it even more marketable by the time that you graduate.
And I would only argue to you that's one of the benefits of our program, particularly not only having a lot of these programs co-located under the same administrative roof of the School of Justice Studies, but even in terms of the forensic psychology program, we do a lot of collaboration. And again, that is a sign of just the interdisciplinary nature of our science, and really the need to cross-train us and to create very diversified students in terms of their skill set. So what we have here are the different ways of completing the program. What you'll find at the graduate level is some programs are heavy cohort based, which is that you have to start the program as a group and really finish the program on a certain sequence. What we really have is just, again, a variety of different options that allow students, not only at the point of application, but really as they mature through their graduate education, to create the scenario which really best fits your needs. So in terms of, we have different options that will allow students to complete the program within 1 year, 1.5 to 2 years, and then we'll go on sort of 3 to 4 years. So while most students will complete a traditional master's program in closer to 2 years, we do have one-year options. Those are accelerated undergraduate master's degrees that we call our 4+1. We have the option to do the 4+1 programs, not only with our own internal Roger Williams students, but with students from other universities. And these are accelerated programs that are really pitched for higher performing students. So we strongly favor GPAs at a 3.3 or higher. But for those students who are accepted into the 4+1, you would take 1 graduate course in both your fall and spring of your senior year. So as a senior, you would take a graduate course in both of those semesters. Those graduate courses track forward to your graduate program, but they also meet the needs of your undergraduate elective courses. So you are, in essence, only paying for those courses once, even though you're getting those credits at the graduate level. So for those students who are taking those, so what you would do is take, again, those 2 courses as an undergraduate, then you would go into 2 in the summer after graduation, and then 4 and 4. So you would finish that master's degree in 1 additional year. So for those students, particularly our own students, there is no additional tuition. You can enroll in that 4+1 at no additional cost while you're an undergraduate student, and you would take those 6 credit hours with no additional financial burden while you are an undergraduate student. For our external students, again, the same model is that you would take a graduate course in the fall and spring of your senior year, then it would be 2 in the summer, then 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring. For those external students, there would be a per course cost, a fixed cost of $501. And that, so that would be, $501 for each of the 2 graduate courses that you take while you're still an undergraduate student. And that's just to cover our administrative processing costs. For a non-4+1 full-time student, you can complete the program within 1.5 to 2 years. And what that typically means at the master's level, a full-time student is 3 courses or 9 credit hours. So at the undergraduate, it's 12 credits or 4 courses. At the master's level, it's 9 credit hours or three courses. Our required classes will cycle through within every given academic year. In order to finish that within a year and a half, you have to take summer courses, and we do offer somewhere between typically 5 to 6, I'd say 4 to 6 courses every summer. I offer usually two required courses and 2 elective courses, and I rotate them summer to summer. But again, to complete it in something less than 2 years, you would have to be committed to summer courses. Almost always our summer courses are 100% online. We do have an exception actually this summer where we are running a mediation course where somebody can get a lot of their training toward getting a certificate in mediation, and that's going to be a hybrid course. But that's one of the first sort of hybrid or in-person classes we've offered into the summer, I think, ever. We don't do that very typically. Actually, and then this summer, actually, because of COVID, that's going to be 100% online anyway. Go ahead, Marcus, sorry. Again, in terms of the 2.5 years to 3.5 years to 4 years, essentially what we're trying to show here is that you really have a ton of flexibility to complete the master's program on a timeline that really fits your needs. In this 2.5 year model, you would take 2 courses each semester and then take 1 course in the summer. My experience is just working with students. If you're working full time, particularly if you're in, let's say, the public safety field where you're working shift work and that sort of things, 2 classes a semester is really pretty that's pretty much the max that most of our full-time working people will take is 2 courses each term. So again, even for those courses, for those students that are going part-time, if you do this 2.5 year model, you are eligible for federal financial aid. And then of course the 3.5 to 4 year model is where a student would typically take 1 course each term. So you take 1 in the fall, spring, and summer. Based on that productivity, you would not be eligible for student loans. So that's one caveat to extending it out for the 3.5 to 4 years. Again, what we're happy to do is, again, just sort of show you what sample schedules will be. And this, again, as I've already mentioned this earlier, but this 4+1 model is an extended sort of accelerated model. You see here that in your, again, senior year, you would take 1 graduate course in fall, 1 graduate course in spring. I always advise students, and for the record, I haven't mentioned it yet, I am the advisor for all graduate students in criminal justice, all masters of criminal justice for graduate students. So even for the 4+1 students in your senior year, we typically like to shift your advisor from your current advisor to me. Now, a lot of students don't like to shift their advisor, and that's fine. For me, that's a great sign, which means that we have very strong connections between our students and their advisors. But I will work in consultation with you and your current advisor. But we typically like to switch students to me just so we're all on the same page. But what I advise students is in their senior year to take a required class. Really want to do your best to knock those out. Those are typically what we say here is that you can take those courses hybrid or online. Most of our 4+1 students will take them hybrid. They prefer to kind of get as close to that traditional classroom environment as possible. So 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring. Grad summer, all 4+1 students have to take 2 courses summer after graduation. So our summer classes start next week. So those 4+1 students that are graduating this week or meeting their graduation requirements this week, by next week they will be starting summer classes, and that it takes that kind of timing to make sure that you complete the program in one year. Then again, taking 4 courses in both the fall and spring, and we typically say 2 required classes, and that just gives students. I really like to make sure students are staying on track with their required classes just so they meet the graduation requirements and are eligible to graduate on their timeline versus our timeline. So our more traditional students, again, depending upon how quickly that you want to complete the program. Again, you'll see here, everything is referenced as hybrid or online. Any one of our courses can be taken hybrid or online. We actually have a model, which I actually find a really interesting model, where we keep all of our online and hybrid students in the same course. And we just allow some flexibility for those 100% online students to do a different kind of work on the week when everybody else is in class. But you would take, again, that full-time student would take two required classes, fall of first year, one elective, 2 year required, 1 elective, 2 require 1 elective, and then or thesis options. And then again, the spring, I always like to tell students, knock out your required classes as quickly as you can, so you have maximum flexibility for your remaining courses. Students that are doing a thesis option, there is a longer conversation to have around how to time out a thesis. And in short, what I always recommend to students, and Dean Lambert, I assume, does the same to his students, is plan on your thesis taking a full academic year. So if you're a 4+1 student who aspires to do a master's thesis, you really should be starting that master's thesis your very first semester of graduate school, because a thesis just takes longer than most students think that it takes. But again, that's something you would have a conversation with me about. Again, for a part-time student, you could really have this be a whole combination of required and elective classes. But again, the two classes semester model is a very productive part-time graduate model. First of all, it allows students, again, still eligible for financial aid if that's a consideration. And it, again, is not too overwhelming. The hybrid is really an interesting development in our program that we started about three years ago. And the reason why we have found that it works really well is that it typically allows students to leverage their time on campus better. So let's say a student says, I want to take 2 courses, but I want to do my best to only be on campus one night a week. Well, what we do is on, let's say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday night, we'll run 2 classes on each of those nights, and then they alternate. One week, this one class is seated, and the next week the other class is seated, and then they flip their online. So really, for again those students that want to take 2 or 3 classes, the hybrid creates a way of helping them maximize the time that they're on campus and not requiring unnecessary commuting, while still getting that in-person experience. Again, the master's thesis, I've mentioned that a few times. Again, if you want to do the master's thesis option, instead of taking 6 elective courses, you take 4 elective courses typically, and those remaining 2 courses, that optional 3 to 6 credits, would be used to work independently on your master's thesis. Again, this is really for that student that wants that research experience. If you're going to do a master's thesis, you would definitely, or should definitely, be considering presenting at a national or regional conference. We actually had one of our master's students who was actually scheduled to go to the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences program and present with myself and a colleague of mine from Stonehill College in San Antonio in March. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that conference got canceled. But that student really has worked on her thesis on police perceptions of innovative policing strategies, and is really well positioned. She actually got accepted into a PhD program at UMass Lowell starting in the fall. So that thesis was an integral part of her plan to make sure that she was competitive for her PhD program. And really, we have faculty here that work in a variety of different areas that are able to mentor students through really just about any topic connected to crime and justice issues. Here's just a sampling of our elective courses. And again, really what you're seeing here is a wide variety of public policy and theory-based issues connected to criminal justice. We really do have a strong foundation in law. Several of our faculty have JD PhDs or were practicing attorneys, and so really bring a strong legal expertise to the table. We have, again, almost anything connected to the criminal justice system, whether it's policing, courts, corrections. We have people who do research in that area. We actually have Dr. Rosano, who's a forensic psychologist, but has been one of our faculty for her whole teaching career, has a lot of legal forensic expertise, eyewitness testimony, false confessions. She teaches a lot of electives in those areas. We have a course on youth gangs where we talk really about, I teach that class pretty often, the intersection of theory and public policy connected to issues of youth violence. Again, we've already mentioned one of the real strengths of our program, and something that really excites me, is that with the public administration and the leadership and the cyber, and also the forensic psych masters, we allow students to take elective courses in those programs. Certainly 1 or 2 courses is never a problem. If you want to take more than 2 into like 3, you do have to have prior approval from myself and the dean. But what's great about this, it's an opportunity for students as a criminal justice student to diversify your portfolio while keeping that criminal justice focus at the same time. As an example, the public administration program has a grant writing class. Now, if you're 22 years old or 23, you might think, well, why in the heck would I want to take a grant writing class? Anybody that's worked in public policy for very long knows that a good deal of the public policy world works on grants. And being able to come to have a job where you have explicit experience with writing and you're submitting grants is a real value added to anyone. So we can leverage those courses and really create that multidisciplinary learning opportunity for our students. In terms of the eligibility, in terms of our 4+1 students, our 4+1 students must be at senior standing. Okay, so what our 4+1 students is you apply in your junior year, spring of your junior year, to be accepted to the program. When you're accepted to the program, then you take graduate courses in the fall and spring of your senior year. But you need to be that senior standing in order to take those graduate courses. And again, that's true for our own internal students and external 4+1s. In order for anybody else to take graduate courses, you have to have earned that undergraduate degree. So you have to have that bachelor's degree in hand. So that is an important requirement for your non-4+1. For our preferred application dates, again, we really ask students to really look to that March 1st and that January 1st deadlines. Really, again, for our 4+1, that March 1st ensures from your advising point of view, if you're thinking through as a junior, I'm trying to make advising decisions for next year. So that March, make sure that we get your application process, we give you an answer. So you are well positioned to know what your needs are at the point of sitting with your advisor for planning for your senior year. For traditional fall admissions, August 1st is really a firm deadline for us. We really need your applications as soon as we can. I have to tell you that we have a good problem, and that our master's program numbers have really increased pretty substantially the last few years. So more and more of our classes are closing. So we need to make sure we know what the student demand is to make sure that we have enough courses to meet that demand. And then again, January 1st, again, is a firm deadline for spring admissions. But the same deal is the earlier you can get it to us in fall, it better helps us to plan. We do have a preferred grade point average at the undergraduate level of 3.0. If you're somebody that isn't quite there, and you still want to apply and write a cover letter that explains, one of the things we like to do is to make sure, we set that 3.0 bar. It's not to create graduate education as some exclusive club, but to really make sure that as an incoming graduate student, you're able to perform and hit the ground running and make sure that you're a successful graduate student. But again, we have flexibility around that admission standard. And certainly if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to me and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it.
One thing I'll just add here, Sean, for students, if you're an external student, we often get a lot of questions if you're currently enrolled. So say you're a senior and it's your spring semester, and granted we're in May, so you're about done anyhow, but if you haven't gotten your degree quite yet, you can still apply now. We're not requiring that you have your degree in hand as you're applying. You would go through the application process, and the only requirement that we have is that you have your bachelor's degree by the time you start your coursework. So you might be getting your degree in August. That's totally fine. You can get started there as well.
Great point. Yep.
One other thing about the schedule too is that if you wanted to, you can start in the summer. Some students, especially coming out from senior year, and right now it's kind of a weird time because we're all home and online and that kind of stuff. It's actually a pretty good time to consider about starting earlier if you're coming from that scenario. But oftentimes students think traditionally like, oh, I'm graduating, I'm going to go start in the fall with my master's. You have that option with us to start in the summer if you'd like, and that can help really kind of get your degree going a little bit sooner. And one of the benefits of doing that is the sooner you get done, the sooner you're earning a salary and able to pay back loans or whatever your financial circumstances look like. So we're not in a place, and Professor Verano talked about this a little bit, we're not in a place where we're trying to just get your money. We want you to have a quality experience. We want you to be successful. And frankly, most students want to come in and get done as quickly as possible so they can get that next job in their career or get their entry-level job or go into a doctoral program. So we don't want to hold you any longer than you have to. So that flexibility of the scheduling allows you to really kind of make those choices, and we offer the opportunity to do it in a successful way at the pace that matters and works well for you.
And I would only say too, one of the things that's happening more and more, and something I never really anticipated with our 4+1, is that because our 4+1 students tend to be our higher performing students, I'm getting more and more students that are finding that they can meet their graduation requirements earlier. So where they had planned on graduating in the spring of a given year, and then all they needed to do was move some stuff around or maybe take one summer class, and they've met their undergraduate graduating requirements at the fall semester, but they start at the 4+1. Since they were already had made tangible progress toward their graduate degree, they just stayed right in and jumped right into graduate education full time, with 4 courses, spring of their 4th year actually. So as they were seeing that they could do it, so for those students, I just like the idea that it gives students flexibility who don't necessarily know exactly what they want to do, but it creates options. You don't want to find out spring of your senior year what you want to do, right? If you're starting in your junior year or fall of your senior year to say, wow, you know what, I can do this and let me ratchet it up, it gives that necessary flexibility. I've had two or three students just this past year who figured out they could graduate early. They had already taken 2 graduate courses, and now they're going to jump headfirst into the graduate program a semester earlier even than they anticipated.
And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, Sean, but as far as the curriculum goes, one of the nice pieces of this program, as well as the MPA and the leadership program, cybersecurity to some degree as well. Because you have that thesis option, if you're pursuing the thesis, that's really the only thing that has to lag toward the end of your program, or at least in terms of actually compiling that. The rest of your program, you can kind of puzzle piece that together because it's about the body of knowledge that you're gaining through the whole degree, and it's not sequential that you have to take 601, 603, and so on. So you can pop in whenever you need to.
Exactly, and that's a really good point, and that is something that's connected to what I mentioned earlier, that cohort model. There's this cohort model where you have to progress through the program at a certain rate and stay on sequence, or it's sort of the pieces of the puzzle fall apart. Our program is not designed like that.
So
in terms of go ahead. I'm sorry, Marcus.
Oh, Sean, you're good. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You have it.
I know a few of you on the call have probably started the application process already, but wanted to talk about that piece for some of you that haven't started or you're interested in moving forward. I know we've heard from a few seniors as well that are graduating, this week, and they haven't, maybe because of COVID, they've started thinking about graduate school a little bit differently. So we're going to work with you so that you don't have to scramble and worry that you can't get in. But as Professor Verano mentioned, the classes do tend to get full as we get closer to the fall. So the sooner you can move on that, the better. And especially if you're somebody that has a lot of your materials together already and you can get your electronic transcripts. If you're from another school, we get your transcripts if you're coming from Roger. We can get you moving even as soon as the summer term if you want to. We still have a couple of weeks to really get that ball moving. So we'll do what we can for you if you'd like to get moving. So our application's online, as most schools are. We have traditionally a $50 application fee, but because of COVID, and we know everybody has a lot of financial needs outside of what's going on right now, we don't need to charge you an application fee on top of that. So when you apply, make sure you use the code HEALTHY, and that'll waive your fee. We do require all official college transcripts. So again, for those of you at Roger, we'll take care of those transcripts for you. If you're coming from another school, and whether you have undergraduate or graduate transcripts, we need all of those transcripts. It's kind of part of our accreditation, but we need to be able to see your whole academic picture. So even if you took a couple of classes somewhere, we do need to see your transcript. Right now, given everything that's going on, we had actually been proactive, and about 6 months ago, I worked with Professor Verano and our other faculty to work on our policy to allow unofficial transcripts as you're applying. So if you're submitting your application and it's hard to get an official transcript right now, and we are going in and getting mailed transcripts and checking on campus so we can get them there. But if you want to email us an unofficial transcript in the short term, we can make your decision contingent upon receipt of that final transcript later on.
And that's also true. I know for some people have a hard time getting timely recommendation letters from faculty. Rumor has it some faculty might be a little tardy at times with getting in their letters. If that's an issue for you, just reach out to us. We will do our best to work within the timeline that we have. If you're missing one letter and your application is otherwise complete, we're willing to do a conditional admittance with that pending that other letter if the application supports it. So we're really flexible in terms of being realistic and dealing with the natural challenges that sometimes meet up against with those timelines.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Sean. We actually offer two different types of kind of non-traditional admission, and that's not necessarily unique to us. A lot of schools will offer different things, but one of them is that conditional admission. So if there are pieces of your application that you just can't get right now, or it's going to hold you up, as Sean mentioned, we'll work with you on that, and we can give you conditional admission. And basically, if you get that, it buys you about a semester's worth of time. So if you need to maybe wait the whole summer to get that last letter or two in, we can work with you on that. We also offer a probationary admission, which we don't offer a lot, but occasionally there are students that show promise, especially for our younger students. Maybe they had a really stellar junior and senior year. They've really shown that their academic promise is different. Maybe their first couple of years they struggled or they had issues at home, and sometimes students detail that in their letters of intent. So we get a little bit of an understanding of what kind of made their grades maybe suffer early on, but they've changed their approach to school now. So we might offer a probationary admission to a student that falls academically a little bit lower, or maybe you have strong work experience, but your academic experience wasn't as stellar. So we can work with you on that. And the probationary would allow you, again, about a semester's runway for you to prove that you can get a B or better cumulative GPA, and that probationary admission falls off. If you're able to prove that 3.0, you can continue right through to the graduate program. So we are, and criminal justice and Professor Verano in particular is very open to supporting students and understanding their conditions and making sure that every student who has the promise to be successful. Again, we're not going to admit, students that we don't think are going to be successful and just take your money. That's not the business we're in. We want to make sure you be successful, but we'll give students the opportunity that show promise. So that's an option for all of our students. So I mentioned the letter of intent. That's something that a lot of schools will ask for. Oftentimes they'll give you specific instructions. We gave you some guidance here, but this is not a prescriptive instruction list for you to take into account for your letter of intent. We're looking for you really just for a page to 2 pages double spaced, so not any heavy lifting, But tell us about why you're choosing the Criminal Justice Master's Program, maybe why Roger Williams, what you think you'll contribute in the classroom, what do you hope to do in the future, and maybe how the Criminal Justice Program will help you to that. And again, it also gives you some opportunity to talk about personal circumstances if necessary. This is not meant to be a biography. It's not meant to be, we've had some students divulge some very personal details. That's really not necessarily the intent of this. We're really trying to just get a sense of how you're going to be contributing to the academic program and in the classroom and be part of a group. And, part of assembling our programs is getting students in there that show promise and passion and drive and can work in teams and can present and have good communication skills and all those various things. So we want to make sure we get a good cohort of people with lack of, not that structure of a cohort, but a good group of students that are working toward the same goal together that are going to work well together. Some of the remaining items that we require, notice GREs are not listed here. We do not require standardized tests for the criminal justice program. So that's one benefit if you're applying and you don't want to go through that hassle, especially now with COVID. We do require two professional letters of recommendation. And when we say professional, we're really just talking about, they could be faculty from your academic program, they could be employers, sometimes they're clients, depending on the type of work you're doing. They could be, if you're a police officer, maybe another police officer that you work with for regular as part of a team. Anything that, is a professional reference, we just are not looking for family or friends. And occasionally we get those, and unfortunately they're not going to meet what we're looking for here. And really, we're just looking for them to attest to your work ethic. Are you somebody that's trustworthy and good communication skills? And are you going to perform well in the classroom? Oftentimes, professional references, especially if you're working, aren't going to be able to tell about how you're going to do on a paper. So we're really asking for them to talk about your conflict resolution, communication skills, detail orientation, ability to keep on top of work, those types of things. So work ethic and passion, those are the things we're looking for to come out of that. And oh, forgive me, I left the wrong instruction in here from another presentation that was related to a different different program, so I apologize for that. But if you've worked in, especially in terms of relevance for your particular discipline, if you've worked as a police officer or if you've worked in any sort of legal or public safety capacity, certainly having folks that can speak to your work in those areas is helpful. And to that lens as well, we ask for a current resume, and we know some students, especially coming out of undergrad, maybe have limited experience. So things like any research experience, internships, part-time jobs. But again, those that are specifically related to public safety will be helpful there. And resume, we're only looking for something to be emailed to us. Doesn't have to be presented on professional paper and all that kind of stuff. You can apply on our website. Pretty straightforward on the website. All the instructions are there. Right now, we're in the midst of switching to a new system, but that won't impact you for a couple of months. So if you apply now, you won't have to worry about that. But you just select your audience, basically, if you're a current RW student or if you're not a current RW student. It's fairly straightforward once you're there. Then select the term that you're looking for. And again, right now, we're taking applications for summer, fall, and spring 2021 as well. So you can apply for any of those 3 terms if you'd like. The only things that we have to get official in the mail, per se, is your transcript. However, some schools do participate in electronic transcript exchanges. So as long as it originates from your school and that's what they use and they send it to us electronically, that's fine. We just can't treat anything as an official transcript if you print it off the web and email it to us, or bring us in a copy that they issued you and it's not sealed in an envelope. It just has to be officially originated from your registrar's office. Beyond that, your letter of intent can be emailed, your resume can be emailed to us. Your letters of recommendation, you'll see that you can indicate your recommenders on your application. They'll get a login and a form that they can complete on the website, and they can upload their letter if they'd like, or they can type in their narrative. If they'd rather, or if they don't receive that invitation, occasionally that becomes a problem, they can email them directly to us. As long as it comes from your recommender to us, we can consider that an official letter of recommendation. So it's fairly straightforward. We can do pretty much everything electronic right now, and anything mailed, we're going to campus and we'll pick up for you and count that as well. So a few things about the finances. I know that's obviously something that's of great concern to students on a regular basis, and you magnify that by what's happening with COVID, and it makes it a little bit more challenging. Fortunately, for graduate studies, and if you're used to undergraduate studies where you have different smaller loan programs, you have grants, Pell Grants, those types of things, it's a little bit in some ways, there's less grant money available to you as a graduate student, and this is true of everywhere. It's not like Roger Williams is cutting out grant opportunities. But you get more money and a more simplified loan opportunity at the graduate level. So it's a lot more straightforward. You can borrow up to $20,500 a year in the federal direct unsubsidized loan program. Currently, it's just over 6% interest. That interest rate is set by the federal government, so it changes each year. It actually went down this year from last year. With any luck, maybe it'll stay down, especially in light of what's going on. And then if you're most often full-time students, especially if you're relocating to us, students will often borrow more money to cover things like housing, transportation, food, other things that they might need to pay for while they're in school because they may not be working. They may not have other income or other money to support them. So you can borrow up to the cost of attendance. That total cost of attendance on paper is a number that scares most people, and it's understandable, but it's a cap so that you're not going out and taking your loan money and buying a Ferrari with it. We want to make sure that you're smart about using your money, and we don't want you to overborrow. The last thing we want is for you to graduate and be burdened by a pile of loans. So you have that $20,500 available to you, and then you can borrow kind of the balance up into the plus loan. And trust me, that budget is pretty flexible in terms of allowing you enough money to live. And it's available to students on a part-time basis or full-time basis. But as Professor Verano mentioned earlier, you have to be enrolled in at least 2 classes at a time to be eligible for aid. So you can get aid even in the summer, but you have to have 2 classes at a time. If you drop to 1 class, you won't be eligible for aid during that semester. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're in 2 classes and you drop to 1 and you've received loan money, you'll be expected to pay that money back immediately. So just minor nuances, and we can work through all that stuff as you get deeper into the program. But if you need loans, those are available to you. They're more competitive than most what you're going to find on the private side. Occasionally, students will look at credit unions and things, but one of the benefits of the federal loans is that you have long-term repayment. So you can pay over 15, 20, even 25 years, depending on the loan structure that you have. And especially for younger students, if you're graduating and you take an entry-level job, if you have a lot of loans, especially if you have a lot of loans from undergrad and you're adding loans to your grad program, you might not want to be paying hundreds of dollars into your loans right as you're taking an entry-level job. So as you're getting established, you can actually take income-based repayment plans through these federal loan programs, and they scale as a percentage of your income. And as you start making more money, you pay more into your loan. So there's a nice scaled approach over time. So that's a nice option if you want it. And as of right now, there's public service loan forgiveness, and many of you will go into public service-oriented careers. So as long as that doesn't change, there's been talks about how that might change, but hopefully that will be available to you. And you basically make payments over 10 years for federal loans, and as long as you've made them on a consistent schedule as prescribed by your loan plan, you basically get forgiven for the balance after 10 years. So that's a nice option, but you have to follow that to a T. So we can get into that later on. For those of you that are working, I definitely encourage you to look at tuition remission programs, especially those of you that are in government or government-oriented roles, whether it be police, fire, any sort of public safety, first responder, EMS, even some government positions. Many of you will have some level of tuition remission, and many of the unions offer pretty competitive tuition packages. So look into those. Many in the area pay 100%, which is fantastic. So just look into those options. And then if you're at a 4+1 or in the full-time programs, we do have some limited grants and scholarships we provide for students. They're largely academic based, so based on your GPA and your academic performance. So we have some limited opportunity there. But for the vast majority of students, and that's just unfortunately a reality of master's programs at any school across the country, that most master's students are paying for their graduate studies with student loans, unless they have other funding opportunities. And then there's limited scholarships and assistantships and things. But if you hear that graduate school is paid for, that's largely when you're talking about PhD study. And for some of you who choose that path, that'll be an option to you. You'll be doing research and TAs and all that kind of stuff. But masters, you're going to be paying largely with student loans. It's just a reality, unfortunately, of master's level study. We encourage you to get involved with us on social media if you'd like. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Right now, we're featuring all of our graduates on our Instagram, so check it out there. And we do have a closed graduate student group on Facebook. So once you become an admitted student, you can join that group, especially if you're looking for housing and roommates and you have questions of current students. That's a good place to kind of get involved with them and see what's happening here. So that's everything that we have for you today. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Haven't seen any questions come in. So either we've put everybody to sleep, Sean, or we've covered everything, which
I'm thinking we are just so thorough.
So I hope this was helpful to you. Again, the flexibility, and I know some of the financials, there were some questions outside of the session regarding undergraduates, and undergraduate and graduate aid is completely separate. So the undergraduate tuition is a different model. You pay per semester and all of that. Whereas graduate studies, you pay per credit hour. So that's just something to keep in mind, and we'll help you work through the dollars and cents. And for any of you on the call, regardless if you're a full-time or part-time student, if it will be helpful for a detailed kind of financial plan to show you exactly what the costs will be, I'm happy to do that for you and can give you a really good overview of that. Once you get into the semester, so summer doesn't have any fees, but you will have semester fees during the year. And we can talk to you more about that. It includes our grad student association and your technology and orientation fees and so on. And your graduation fee, you no longer pay. That's part of that fee. So it's something we've kind of worked to streamline things, but also add services for grad students. So there's a lot of give and take that's really worked well in the students' favor the last year or so. So we can detail all of those fees for you as well. But it's pretty comprehensive, and we've tried to simplify it. So there's not a lot of detail that you have to get stuck in. But if you have questions on that, we're happy to kind of detail that for you.
And I know I speak for Marcus when I say, you have our contact info here. Please don't ever hesitate to call us, to email us. We're very accessible, and we're happy to answer any questions at any time.
Oh, I see a chat here from Dean Lambert. Do we accept transfer grad credits from other schools? Good question. We have, our transfer policy allows for 6 credits of transfer. It's fairly common that grad schools have a residency requirement of usually about 30 credits. Cyber kind of gets around that here, but for criminal justice, you can transfer up to 6 credits. So if you've taken classes, especially, I know some of you on the call are active public safety or your active duty military, and you may have taken or dabbled in a couple of grad classes here and there. We do accept transfer grad credits as long as they're from regionally accredited graduate programs. So we can talk to you about that. If you have specific questions on your school or your classes, either one of us can talk to you about that. And Dr. Verano and the dean will look at the courses individually to make sure that they have an equivalence with our program. Bless you, Sean. I see you sneezing over there. Are there any other questions we might be able to answer for you? I'm trying to think if there's anything we left out, Sean. We covered a lot of ground. And Dave, thanks for the question. All right, I think we're pretty good. If anybody has any questions, you have our email and contact information directly there. We're both working remotely, so those voicemails get directed to us at home, and we can get back to you if you leave us a voicemail, so be sure to do that if you call. And we're happy to set up individual appointments if you need it. So thanks again for your time. I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.